Danger looms! Despite recent victories on the Outer Rim, criminal minds plot at the very heart of the Republic. The bounty hunter Cad Bane has assembled some of the deadliest criminals in the galaxy and plans a daring attack to seize members of the Senate. What could be the aim of this despicable act?
Oh, greetings, Bucketheads. Mevar Tigar. Welcome to the 47th Galactic Senate Storming episode of Mando Vision. Nargai Tom. And thank you so much for checking out this small, independent Star Wars podcast. We're doing it because we love it. Remember, the best way to reach out to us is via social media at Mando_Vision on Twitter and Instagram. You can email the show mandovisiontom@gmail.com. Remember to be sure to like, subscribe, and share the show with all the other Mandalorians in your covert and all the other coverts that you're aware of. If possible or so inclined, and listening on a platform that allows you to do so, give us those sweet, sweet, sweet 5-star reviews. Those are the key to unlocking that internet algorithm that will send this show rocketing up the charts. Yeah, those 5 stars help us get the word out about the show and the good stuff that we're doing on it, and hopefully grows our audience so that even more people can join the fun and join our legion of bucketheads. We have a great episode for you today. I'm so excited that we are finally here and reviewing this episode in particular. We've made it. It's season 1, episode 22, the season finale, Hostage Crisis. The original air date, March 20th, 2009. And this one is a doozy. Introducing Cad Bane, the bounty hunter, who will be a major foil for our Jedi friends and the Republic in general in season 2. And this is a great way to sort of introduce that character to the audience. I say it that way because we learn from the context of some of the events in this episode that Anakin is already quite aware of Cad Bane. They have run into each other before, and vice versa. Cad Bane very much aware of Anakin Skywalker. I really dig this episode. I'm excited to talk about it. But before we can get into the show proper, you know what we have to do first. All right, so let's get ready. Now's the time. Strap on your buckets. Let's go.
Put up your hands.
I got business with the Senate. How about you fellas step aside?
On your knees. Raise your hands. Slowly.
Son, I wouldn't be so hasty if I were you.
All right, now that our buckets are firmly in place, let's get into it. Season 1, episode 22, Hostage Crisis. As I said before, its original air date March 20th, 2009. Here's our plot for the episode. To free crime lord Zero the Hutt, bounty hunters seize control of the Senate building and take hostages, unaware that Anakin Skywalker is still inside. That's a pretty basic, bare-bones version of the plot, but yeah, that's essentially what it is. And we are introduced to Cad Bane in this episode, as I mentioned. Cad Bane, a blue-skinned Duros. You may recall from episode 4, in the cantina scene, we see two green-skinned Duros in the cantina scene, having a nice little chat. And one of the striking features of the Duros is the red eyes, the large red eyes. That's very that captures a lot of attention when you see a member of the Duros race. I believe there can be. I want to say there's a gray-skinned Duros as well. They have a couple different color variations in their species. And again, like we talked about in a previous episode, we're going to get into like some species-specific episodes of the show where we kind of break down more about them. And I think we will definitely have to do the Duros because, as I mentioned, Cad Bane is such a prominent member of the Clone Wars, particularly in Season 2. But, I mean, just basically going forward at this point, Cad Bane is a presence on the show. And a good one. I love this character. I was instantly hooked on his sort of Western vibe that he gives off, and that has been attributed to the fact that a lot of his look and the way he carries himself is inspired by Lee Van Cleef in The Good, the Bad, the Ugly, the classic film that you all may know. Sergio Leone directed, with Clint Eastwood, Lee Van Cleef. It's a good one. If you haven't seen it, I don't know I don't know who's into westerns anymore. A lot of the Star Wars audience skews a little younger these days, and so I don't know if you go back and you revisit those classic spaghetti westerns. But you know, if you watch Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, you got a little bit of an idea of what a spaghetti western is when Leonardo DiCaprio's character goes to Rome and to star in a bunch of them. Another reason why I like this episode so much is because it's basically the Star Wars Clone Wars equivalent of Die Hard, which is one of my favorite all time movies, and in my opinion, possibly the best action movie ever made in the history of anything. So to see sort of a Star Wars take on it involving Anakin, I thought was a lot of fun. And instead of an Anakin who doesn't have shoes on, he's an Anakin with no lightsaber, which leads to some precarious situations for Anakin to find himself in as these bounty hunters have stormed the Senate and taken hostages, and all in their plot, their attempt to get Zero the Hutt released into their own custody. It's a lot of fun. It's a really good episode. I think this closes out the season on such an incredibly high note, and sets the stage for a really action-packed adventure-based season 2 to come, with all the stuff that they bring forth in this episode. And again, like we talked about, like we talked about in previous episodes, the show, you got to remember, the show is not necessarily chronological. So Cad Bane knowing Anakin ahead of time, and vice versa, Anakin recognizing Cad Bane being here. We haven't seen the story of their first encounters yet, and that's one of the things that's sometimes a little hard to follow with the Clone Wars series, is because that chronology is a little all over the place. Unless you're watching like we just did the Ryloth trilogy. I mean, that's very A, B, and C. We can follow that up. That's pretty straightforward. But the episode before that, back on Christophsis, that's back at the beginning of the season, basically, when Anakin when Anakin and Obi-Wan were on Christophsis. That goes back to the movie, to this original episode with Zero the Hutt. And remember, if you're like, wait, where was Zero the Hutt? He was in the Clone Wars movie. That was sort of his introduction to the Star Wars audience at large. So we're kind of tying back into that sort of feature-length pilot that was Star Wars: The Clone Wars, the animated movie. So a lot of things in motion here, a lot of things in play, But one of the nice parts about this episode too is even if you came to the Clone Wars late, you didn't necessarily have to have seen the movie. It all kind of is in there. You know what I mean? They do a good job of kind of laying out the basic plots, the basic motivation for the characters, what they're trying to achieve, and why, without you having to go back to revisit it. Now, obviously, going back to revisit it is just a lot of fun and highly encouraged in the show. We always encourage watching all the Star Wars all the time. So yeah, let's go. Let's go and watch everything all over again. All right. So, oh gosh, I haven't even read our cast yet. Let me do that real quick because we have quite the cast. As usual, we have quite the cast on this show. One of the best performances, I think, is Corey Burton as Cad Bane. I think he does an incredible job bringing this character to life. And Corey is also the voice of Zero the Hutt. And Shahan Alma, who is one of the, I believe, ooh, I'm going to be wrong. I want to say it's one of the other bounty hunters, but I think it may actually be one of the senators. I'll have to double check my notes on that. Matt Lanter returns as Anakin Skywalker. Catherine Tabor is Padme Amidala and Betty Droid. Phil Lamar as Bail Organa, Orn Frita, and Senator Philo. Ian Abercrombie is Chancellor Palpatine. D. Bradley Baker as the Clone Troopers, Commander Fox, Robinino, and Onakanafar. Matthew Wood is the Senate Guard and the Commando Droid. That's right, we get to see Commando Droids in this episode. Remember them from the Rookies episode, where they take over the Rebel outpost that's on the edge of the Geonosis system. And these droids actually impersonate clones at one point. So the Commando Droid, I think it's a kind of a nice return to see the Commando Droid. I thought they were always kind of a fun droid nemesis for our heroes. Tom Kane is the narrator, and Captain Jafon. David Accord is the Senate Guard and the servant droid. Anthony Daniels, the wonderful, the legendary, back as C-3PO. And Jamie King is Aura Singh, who I think Aura has one line in this episode, but when Aura Singh speaks, you listen. I think that's what we have to say about that. But Aura will also play a larger role in this series going forward with ties to the young Boba Fett. So that'll be really interesting to check out. All right, this episode starts. We're shot out of a cannon with this episode. Cad Bane with an audacious plan to storm the Senate. It's just awesome. Aura Singh, who we did meet in episode 1. You see her watching the pod racing. It's a character visually striking, visually interesting. And we get more about her from a lot of the other media sources, like the comic books and some of the novelizations set in the prequel period. But because Star Wars, The Clone Wars is canon, her appearances here are the most significant, the most important. So the way she is in this episode in particular, as like we see her as an expert marksperson, we see her as very cutthroat. Even though we only get glimpses of these things, you can take away a lot from these a lot of early impressions from Aura Singh's character. So wonderful to check in with her, and like I said, a big part of the show going forward when we sort of catch up with a young Boba Fett trying to make his way in the criminal underworld of the Star Wars galaxy. Another thing I wanted to note about this group of bounty hunters that Cad Bane has put together, aside from a commando droid and Aura Singh, there's an IG unit in the group, and we've seen IG units a couple different times on the show, and one of the things I am most curious about, the way the IG units move on the show. I don't think it's as good as the way IG-11 moves in season 1 of The Mandalorian. I just don't. I feel like, and maybe I'm wrong, and I guess that's what I want to ask you wonderful people who are listening. Do you feel these IG units on the animated series are as mobile and agile as we see IG-11 to be in season 1 of The Mandalorian? I don't think he is, I don't think these animated versions of the IG droids are as quick and limber as we see IG-11 to be in season 1. But that was one of those things I kind of went back and forth, rewatching scenes and comparing it to stuff from season 1. And I was like, no, I think he's way more versatile in The Mandalorian. But I was very curious what everyone thinks of that. So yeah, that's something to pay attention to as you're watching back on the episode. All right, so let's get into the episode a little bit. I want to start with a scene between Anakin and Padme. They're having a little bit of a back and forth, something of a little bit of a marital spat to a certain extent, as Anakin's trying to express his feelings, but Padme trying to be a professional senator, if you will, and be like, this is not the place, the time, or the setting for these kind of conversations. But I wanted to play this clip because there's a bit in here that makes me laugh, and so I wanted to share that with you all. So here we go. Let's listen to more of Anakin's professing of his feelings for Padme and her response.
To me, there's nothing more important than the way I feel about you. Nothing.
Anakin, don't be so...
Oh, you don't believe me?
I didn't say
I'll prove it. Just watch. When I finished constructing my lightsaber, Obi-Wan said to me, Anakin, this weapon is your life. This weapon is my life.
No, Anakin, I can't. A Jedi lightsaber is... Wow, it's heavier than I thought.
It's yours. Believe me now?
If all you want to do is make fun of me, I think you should just go.
That's not what I want. Not at all.
Smoochy time. All right, so I couldn't help but laugh at the line he says, and we saw it, recall back to episode 2, Attack of the Clones, and Obi-Wan tells Anakin, this lightsaber is your life. And how many times in episode 2 did Anakin lose his lightsaber or have it destroyed? I think he was on lightsaber number 3 by the end of that movie. And so to hear him use it as sort of a metaphor for his love and his life and putting it into Padme's hands. I was like, it gave me a little bit of a chuckle. I don't know. I understand the sentiment that he's trying to convey, but Anakin, we watched Attack of the Clones. We saw how many lightsabers you went through. We saw how quickly you dropped all of them. We saw you get them smashed in half into Droid Foundry. We know. We know. You can't deceive the audience. You might be able to trick your wife, but you can't trick us, sir. No, sir, and we won't stand for it. Not this time. It's shortly after this, actually probably interrupting this, is when Bail Organa calls Padme, letting them know that the meeting that they have to go to is beginning. That leaves Anakin all alone in her office. Padme takes the lightsaber with her. So Anakin separated from his lightsaber as Cad Bane strikes, and this is the group of senators that he will take hostage, because we can't go more than like 4 or 5 episodes between Padme getting taken prisoner somewhere or being held hostage against her will. Again, in this episode, it's not nearly as egregious as it has been in some of the other episodes, because obviously they stormed the Senate building in this one. It was more than likely she was going to be there to be taken as a hostage. So I won't get into that aspect of things. But I like the fact that, a lot of these senators that we see in this group that are taken hostage are senators we've seen from other episodes in this season. And I like the sort of continuity, that sort of connections, that bringing that familiarity to the show. I know it has a lot of it has to do with they had already constructed the animation models for these characters, so it was easier to plug them in. And I'm okay with that. Again, I'm okay with that. I don't think you need to spend a lot of time and money to create a bunch of new things if you don't need to necessarily. You're trying to create a cohesive show. You want familiarity, and I think they do a nice job here. Be like, oh, there's the Pandoran ambassador there, and you see that stuff and you recognize that from the earlier episodes, and it's again part of the charm of the show overall. All right, so as Cad Bane takes these senators hostages, he does kill the Grand Senator. We know who the Grands are, right? We talked about them. They're the species with the 3 eye stalks. One of them had the Staff of Ra in an earlier episode this season. So Bane kills him, and now he's going to issue his demands to Palpatine. So let's go ahead and play that scene and check that out. Here we go.
Sorry to bother you, Chancellor, but I've taken control of the east wing of your Senate building, and the occupants are now my hostages. If you care about them, I'd advise you to free Zero the Hutt from your detention center.
You should know that the Republic does not take kindly to such threats. If you have attempted such a foolhardy action as to kidnap a senator, I assure you that it will be met with appropriate force.
This ought to do it.
What's going on?
I'm in control. I make the rules now.
Hey, he's the captain now. I couldn't resist. I'm sorry. All right. So yeah, we see that Cad Bane has control of the facility. He's able to close people into doors, lock things, switch the power on and off, and probably do a lot worse if he really, really wanted to. It's funny. I was just noting the timestamp of that clip, and we were right around like the 7-8 minute mark of the show. But in the podcast terms, we've talked for a while already. But that's one of the interesting parts of this show. One of the neat aspects of the show is that it is a really fast-paced show. I mean, from this point on, this is where it really becomes like Die Hard, where it's Anakin trying to use his cunning and his wits to free the senators, to free Chancellor Palpatine, to stop these bounty hunters. And you get a lot of great action sequences. There's a lot of great fast-paced action in this episode, and it's one of the reasons why I do think it's so strong. Obviously we're not going to play a bunch of action clips because, that's not going to do any good. We're on a podcast here, so it doesn't make any sense to do so. But you see it when you watch this one. It's got a great tempo, a great pace to it. The action's good. Anakin is a little out of his element without a lightsaber, and you see that. He's not quite... He's not, I don't want to say he's not as good without a lightsaber, because obviously he is, but he's not quite as quick to start tossing bodies around with the Force in this necessarily. But again, you, he's not a killer. He can't just go around throwing people off of cliffs, out windows and stuff like that. So, but it also shows that these bounty hunters are formidable foes for the Jedi. And that's another aspect of this episode that I like. It's not just throwing, B-1 battle droids at the Jedi as cannon fodder. No. You get to see the strategies that, top tier bounty hunters would employ in combat against the Jedi, because that was something that was common for a bounty hunter back in those days, I would imagine, or back in those days, in the context of this Star Wars period of history. If bounty hunters wanted to do business, there's a possibility they might run into a Jedi at some point, and you had to be able to handle yourself accordingly if you were going to make it off the planet or get away with your bounty intact. Because you might be looking for someone who the Jedi are looking for, and then you got to outfox them. And, obviously beating the Jedi with brute strength isn't always going to be the way. But these being, the top tier bounty hunters that Cad Bane could get in his crew for this, yeah, they're formidable. And I think that's an important thing to realize, as, Anakin does have trouble with them. It's not a walk in the park for Anakin in this episode. And I like that. I like that he's got to have a challenge in this, and it makes it it makes it a lot more, well, I don't want to say way more, but it makes it a lot more fun than if he was just, throwing them all around and kind of like a one-man wrecking crew. He is to an extent, but like I said, I like the fact that the bad guys in this are able to stand up to him, and they don't just go run away because there's a Jedi Knight in the room. All right, Anakin's being pursued by bounty hunters. He's not doing that stealth thing really well, but he's able to reestablish communication with Chancellor Palpatine. So I want to go ahead and play that for y'all. Here, check this one out.
This is General Skywalker. Chancellor Palpatine, can you hear me?
My dear boy, I'm glad to know you're there and all right.
What is going on down there?
I hear it too, coming from up ahead.
He sealed the entire building. Nobody can get in, and we cannot get out. It's up to you. You have to get to the power control room and turn on the security seal.
All right, there's another little action sequence, and again, it's a lot of visual stuff here, so I don't want to play it out necessarily. But he's being hunted by a Weequay and the IG droid that we were talking about. So at this point, again, Anakin being hunted by the bounty hunters, but Padme is also being Padme at this point too. She's talking to Bail Organa. She's plotting for them to free themselves. They can get out of this. She has Anakin's lightsaber, and she tells this to Bail Organa, and she seems to want to try and make a play to end this with what Anakin would call hostile negotiations. But it's time for Cad Bane to make another phone call, so I want to go ahead and listen to that. Let's do it.
So here's what you're going to do. First, you're going to make a pardon disc. You can give it to your friend there.
Me?
My ship will come and pick him up and take him to the prison. Once Zero has been released and is handed over to me, then your associate will be released. Understand?
Oh, I do. But I feel it is my duty to warn you that you will end up paying for this outrage.
I can live with that.
Come on, open the door.
All right. So again, a really fast-paced action show, and it goes Cad Bane's way. They are, Palpatine creates the pardon disc. Orn Free-Taa goes, delivers it. They bring out Zero the Hutt, who gets in the little shuttles, and everything is going their way. It's working out just as Cad Bane predicted. And Aurra Sing is able to capture Anakin Skywalker. So now any hope that the Senators had, that the Republic had, of ending this, of stopping Cad Bane before they release Zero the Hutt, it's really looking not so good for the Republic forces, as Cad Bane's plan is kind of coming off without a hitch at this point, and it makes him a very, very impressive and formidable figure for our characters to come up against. All right, so when Aurra captures Anakin, she brings him where the Senators are. They're all in that atrium together. This is going to be a good thing in the long run. But again, Cad Bane seemingly prepares for all eventualities. He has a team of top-notch bounty hunters doing his bidding. Zero's been freed. He's on his way back to the Galactic Senate despite the protests from Zero the Hutt. Let's kind of hear this as this episode is escalating so quickly, and the music in here is so freaking wonderful. I love it. You'll get a little sample of it here as things are beginning to amp up.
We need to get to the landing platform. Is everything ready?
Yep.
Turn on the field.
If you so much as breathe on one of these lasers, the whole room will blow up.
Senators, Jedi, I bid you all a most respectful farewell. Let's go.
All right. So everything's ramping up. We're rocketing towards the conclusion of this episode. How will the good guys win? How will they prevail here? Ooh, time will tell. But at least Anakin is in the right room with his lightsaber. That might come into play. Ooh. All right, so at this point, since Orn Free-Taa is out and about, he may have delivered that pardon disc to get Zero out, but he also contacted the Republic, the Grand Army of the Republic, let them know that the Chancellor has been taken captive, and they need to storm the Senate and protect him and secure him. And that's exactly what happens. You see clone troopers just launching through the windows in the Senate in Chancellor Palpatine's office. Again, another just action-packed visual. The spectacle continues as they ramp this up, and again, as I mentioned, the music kind of continues to escalate. Like we're running out of time. The good guys have to win here, right? Right? All right. So Cad Bane and his crew, they're coming out of the Senate. They think they got this thing locked up. Not so fast, my friends. Clone troopers, gunships, waiting for them outside the Senate. Palpatine makes a little phone call of his own to Cad Bane. Let's see how this one turns out. Listen to that score. Come on.
You were foolish to think you could get away with this, bounty hunter. Now lay down your arms and come quietly.
No, Chancellor. I'm afraid it is you who have been foolish with your senators' lives. One false move, and the east wing of the Senate building goes up in smoke.
Please, Annie, wake up.
You win, bounty hunter.
Holster 'em!
Stand down.
So Cad Bane working his way through the crowd of clone troopers, finger over the button.
What are you looking
as
so
he's now
sad
threatened to blow up the Senate and all the senators. It's really a great scene, a great plan by Cad Bane. But now, Anakin realizes...
Well, that's not a very good idea.
Anakin knows something's up at this point.
Come on. Let's get going.
Every single member of Cad Bane's crew makes it out of this.
Too bad I don't have my lightsaber.
You mean this? I found it where you dropped it.
Padme lights the lightsaber.
Now, quickly.
Freeze
We
Anakin.
don't have much time.
Here we go. Jedi stuff. Lightsaber into the floor.
It doesn't look like prison had too adverse an effect on you.
Oh, you can't imagine the unspeakable things I've suffered. The horror. I doubt I'll ever really recover.
That's...
How about some dead senators as payback?
And there goes Bane, triggering the bomb. And they come crashing through the floor to safety. Quick thinking about Anakin pulling a classic Bugs Bunny maneuver with his lightsaber.
Another daring rescue, Master Jedi.
I do my best, Senator.
Congratulations on a job well done, bounty hunter.
Time to pay up, Hut. I don't work for free.
Cad Bane is just a great villain. He's just so menacing. Even like the way he turns on the Hutt and just spits that line out, the vitriol involved in it. Just what a wonderful way to wrap up the first season of the Clone Wars. And again, we've covered all of it in this first season, and in review, in hindsight, I liked going back and revisiting it and sort of seeing the evolution of the show, the evolution of the characters. Obviously, I think you can still say season one is the weakest of all the seasons of the show. But it's not as bad as my memories were of it. There's a lot more to take from this than I thought. And again, I talked about that early on when we started reviewing these. Helping to know the trajectory that all these characters are on and where they're going to land and where the show's going to land in relations to the Revenge of the Sith, the film, was really, really great, really, really wonderful. And I'm not above saying that I questioned the decision to bring in Ahsoka Tano when I first heard rumors that Anakin was getting a Padawan, because I was like, well, how's that going to work out? He didn't have a Padawan in episode 3. Is she just going to die? No. Again, not so fast, my friends. Much more complex and one carefully calculated arc was devised for Ahsoka Tano. And again, Ahsoka, we talked about this before. Not as annoying as I remember her being, but she did have some problems earlier in the season. They seem to smooth out some of these things, but it's interesting to note how I think at the time I didn't realize how much we were jumping around in chronology, that we weren't telling like a linear story. So we would get episodes with Ahsoka and then have a stretch with no Ahsoka. And these weren't things that I was kind of aware of exactly what we were doing as far as the timeline goes, because they were never overt in it. It was like, this episode falls here and this episode takes place, before episode X, and the complex arithmetic that they came up with for season 1 of the show. And don't get me wrong, that does continue into season 2. And we will get those first encounters between Anakin and Cad Bane. Is it in season 2? I almost want to say this in season 3, but my memory on that's a tad fuzzy. So we're gonna experience it all together, and that's the really fun part. I love this episode. I think it's a blast. This is a rock solid 8.5. 8.5. I really dig it. I think it's great. The musical score really escalates the action and the adventure elements of the show, ramps up the tension, ratchets up that tension to a level that music is supposed to provide for a lot of these grandiose Star Wars adventures, right? And that's right. That's right. So yes, we have done it. We have wrapped up season 1 of Star Wars: The Clone Wars. We are in a really great position. Season 2 kicks off on a bang. It's a real banger of a couple of episodes featuring Cad Bane once again. So I can't wait to start covering those. But there will be a slight pause. A slight pause, because I do want to start some of these Jedi features and some of these species features as well. So we're going to get into that. We are also going to have a Star Wars comic book catch-up episode. Not ketchup like you put in your hamburger or your hot dog, but we're going to talk about Marvel's latest Star Wars comic books and kind of catch you up on what they're doing now that they're covering the period after The Empire Strikes Back. It's been a lot. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. So we're gonna have an episode dedicated to the Star Wars comics, and we're gonna talk about those, because I can't wait to talk about those, because I've been reading them and I am digging what I'm reading. There's a lot of interesting things in there that not a lot of other creators before them had thought about doing. The approaches to certain characters and to certain events after the Battle of Hoth. Really interesting stuff. So we're gonna get into it. It might be a little spoilery, so I'll have to put a tag on that episode as well. That there will be spoilers. So if you read Star Wars comics, and you're not caught up, that may be one you want to try to get caught up on before you listen to. But yeah, get ready. It's going to be so much fun. I'm so excited. We have so much great Star Wars stuff to talk about all the time nowadays. It is a true golden age for Star Wars fans, for fans of science fiction and fantasy and comic books in general, superheroes, obviously. We are living the dream right now. This is a place that when I was a teenager, I never thought we would see. And if you're a teenager and you're listening to this podcast, trust me when I tell you how good you have it, and soak up every single minute of it, because it's the best. And it will get better. Let's hope so, because there's still more Mandalorian to come. There's Boba Fett to come. Obi-Wan Kenobi show to come. This is the best time to be a Star Wars fan. There's so much amazing stuff out there. All right, that's it. That's it for this episode, okay? Thank you so much for listening to the 47th episode of Mando Vision. know our guy Tom. We are your favorite, I hope, small independent Star Wars podcast. Remember, the best way to reach us is on social media at Mando_Vision, Twitter and Instagram. Please give us a follow, give us those likes. Again, those help us tremendously. You can email the show if you want to. If you want to send an email, some kind of you want to have like a long form conversation, hit me up. It's mandovisiontom@gmail.com. If you're on a podcasting platform that allows you to give stars and reviews, 5 stars. Thank you so much. Those, again, incredibly helpful for getting the word out about what we are doing. Tell your friends, family, enemies, loved ones, your neighbors' pets, people you're in blood feuds with, people you owe a life debt to. Let them all know that we're doing a really good job over here on Mando Vision and that we could use their listens and their downloads. That'd be amazing. Remember, we are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Google Play, Pandora, Amazon Music, Audible, and so many, many more. What a great time to be a Star Wars fan. I'm just so excited. Season 1's done, and we only have 6 more to go. But the Bad Batch is coming, and we're excited about that too. Can't wait. May the 4th. Let's see what else we get on May the 4th. There might be a lot of news too. We might have I might just podcast all day on May the 4th. We'll see how it goes. All right. Remember, my name is Tom, and this podcast can only end one way, and this is the way.
This is the way.
This is the way.
This is the way.
I would like to see the baby.